Hello, I'm Carol Martin. Welcome back to apostrophes, commas, everything. This video is all about verbs. There was so much to say about verbs that I decided to split the information into two parts. This first one is all about the function and different types of verbs, and the second one focuses on tenses. It was quite a challenge to extricate one from the other. I hope you find the videos interesting and easy to navigate through. You use verbs all the time and you're very skilled at it. From the moment we're born, we're immersed in language and we hear verbs in action. The purpose of this video is to explore how we use verbs to make our meaning clear when we communicate with others. Let's begin. A verb is a doing or action word, like run, wait, read. Or it could be a more static action, like be, think, or hope. I've underlined the verbs and verb groups here in these 4 different sentence types. The statement, for example, I remember you. A question, should we swim to the pontoon? An exclamation, I can't believe it. And a command, eat your dinner. You'll notice that a verb in a sentence can be a single word or it may be a group of words. A verb can have an object or not. That is, it can carry out its action on something or someone. Some verbs always have an object. They're called transitive verbs. For example, like. I like popcorn. Some verbs never have an object. They're called intransitive verbs. For example, smile. They smiled when they saw the photo. You can't actually smile something or someone. And some verbs sometimes have an object. For example, the verb read. My dad always reads the paper being the object of reads. Or I like to read. In that last example, there's no object. Verbs fall into 2 categories, regular or irregular. Regular verbs follow regular patterns. For example, walk, ask, hurry, change, hope, answer, collect, happen. Irregular verbs do not follow regular patterns. For example, feel, drive, fall, bring, make, become. Here's a fun fact. The 10 most commonly used English verbs are all irregular. Be, have, do, go, say, see, take, get, can, and will. Regular verbs follow regular patterns in the simple past tense. Even though regular verbs don't all follow the same pattern, they stick to the rules within the basic pattern, unlike the irregular verbs which, go off on tangents in the simple past tense. They're a law unto themselves, those irregular verbs. So the first pattern, add ed. For example, walked, called, looked, waited. For a verb ending in e, add d in the past tense. For example, closed, liked, waved. For a verb of 1 syllable, consonant, vowel, consonant, double the final consonant, then add ed. For example, stopped. Except for words ending in w, x, y, those consonants don't get doubled. And for verbs ending in y, consonant plus y, change the y to I, then add ed. For example, cried, worried. The question of regular verb patterns can be subjective. It's not always clear if a verb should be considered regular or irregular. For example, there are only 3 one-syllable verbs in the say, lay, pay group. Is that enough to be considered a regular pattern? Maybe not. Anyway, it doesn't really matter. It just comes down to getting the spelling right in the past tense. I mentioned irregular verbs being a law unto themselves. Look at these irregular verbs and see how different their forms are. I've chosen 4 verbs: be, go, bring, and do. And if you look across to the simple past tense column, be in the simple past tense is was or were, go is went, bring is brought, not brang of course, and do is did. And how are we so good at knowing all these different past tenses? Well, it's because we're surrounded by these tricky irregular verbs every day. We hear them being used constantly. I'm jumping to adding ing to a verb here because ing words are very important. They're used to form continuous present and past tenses, as well as in other ways which we'll look at. So as a general rule, simply add ing, and the examples are eat becomes eating, happen becomes happening, know becomes knowing. And for verbs ending in e but not double e, drop the e and add ing. So in have, you drop the e and add ing to form having, and the same with remove to form removing, and change to form changing. More on adding ing to a verb. Here, V stands for vowel and C for consonant. For one-syllable verbs ending in a vowel and a consonant, double the final consonant and add ing. Unless the verb ends in W, X or Y. Remember, they were the consonants that didn't get doubled when you add ed. So here stop becomes stopping with a double P. For verbs of more than one syllable with stress on the final vowel consonant syllable, double the consonant and add ing. So forget becomes forgetting with 2 T's. This rule is not really hard and fast when you think of verbs like cancel, target, focus, which sometimes double the final consonant but not always. Both ways are right. It really depends on whether you want to take up the American influence on English spelling. And the final page on adding ing to a verb. For verbs ending in ie, change the ie to y, then add ing. For example, lie, lie, becomes lying, lying. And last and least, the very small group of verbs ending in C. For those, you add K, then ing. So words like picnic, mimic, and panic. There's also arc, but that's the exception because you don't add K, arcing is arcing. The ing form of the verb is often used as a noun, and in this case, it's called a gerund. Like reading is fun, walking keeps you fit, he loves playing soccer. The ing form of the verb is often used as an adjective. For example, opening night, the rolling waves, a sleeping baby. Can you think of more? This page is about modality. And even if you've never heard that word before, you're already an expert at using modality. Modality expresses likelihood or obligation. Words like could, should, would, might, may, must, have to are all modal verbs. For example, I could climb that tree. Should we set off now? Must we go any further? I would walk faster if I didn't have to carry this heavy bag. Modal verbs can imbue what we say with a polite tone. For example, may I come in? I might have another cake. Voice, when it comes to verbs, refers to the relationship between the subject and the verb. In the active voice, the subject performs the action. For example, Kookaburra sits in the old gum tree. In the passive voice, the subject is passive. It receives the action. For example, that book has been borrowed 10 times. The infinitive form of the verb usually has to in front of it. For example, to think. And here again, you're already expert at using the infinitive, even though you might never have seen the word or heard of it before. And here are 4 different ways we often use the infinitive. It can represent a noun. For example, we need to hurry. To win today would be excellent. It can show purpose or intention. For example, I'm texting to ask you over. It can add more detail to a noun. For example, would you like something to eat? Or an adjective. For example, I'm delighted to be here. I hope you found this video on verbs informative and interesting. The last 3 pages were a little more challenging, but sometimes it's nice to take a topic a little further, drill down a bit. Don't forget to check out the companion video on tenses. Thank you for watching.